So Dan, thanks for joining me today in Rep Talk. It's such a pleasure. We've been talking about having you on here for a while. It's finally, the day is here. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Just tell everybody out there a little bit about your background. How did you end up in HVAC, and in particular as a manufacturer's rep? Just give us a little bit of insight as to your upbringing.
Yeah, great. So, I actually lived in Tampa. I graduated high school here in Tampa in 1981. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. School wasn't really my thing. I did like technical things, but school wasn't my thing. And so I went to work at a hospital for my mom was director of nursing of a hospital. So lo and behold, my uncle from Long Island, New York came down with his family, 9 boys, 1 girl, came to Tampa to visit. And at that time, I was out on my own, 18, living on my own, and working at the hospital, and really wasn't going anywhere career-wise. Was working in the kitchen and doing floors at night and stuff like that. It was just, that's what I did. So they came to visit, and my uncle and aunt owned a wholesale company called Hasco Utilities in Long Island, New York. Back then, they actually had 4 locations, and one in Manhattan and one in out east in Medford. That's where I worked.
Heating and air conditioning wholesale?
Heating, air conditioning,
okay,
refrigeration.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. So they invited me to move back to New York, which was the last thing I wanted to do because I really liked Florida. But I was at a point in my life where I was just not going anywhere. I was just kind of just going out and having a good time and enjoying everything that a young man enjoys in Florida. And I decided I'd go ahead and take them up on their offer to move to New York to live with them. So I was the 11th child. The only caveat was I had to go back to school and get a degree on HVAC. So I went and got a 2-year certificate program degree at the University of SUNY Farmingdale in Farmingdale, New York.
Yeah.
So they got me in the business. I loved it. I loved the school there. I really did well in school doing thermodynamics. We actually designed the air conditioning refrigeration systems for the Twin Towers as part of our final grade. And a commercial was really kind of cool. And I really got into that. So I kind of knew this is where I want to be. And then I was one of the first ones to get an MS-DOS computer at the counter and do heat load and refrigeration and air conditioning loads at the counter for free. And people would come in and line up, and that would get me half off the counter from running around and doing everything crazy. I'd be sitting there like a gentleman, kind of doing these heat load calculations.
That's fantastic.
So that's how I got into business. That was 1980. So graduated 81. It would be 1983 that I moved to New York. So I've been in the business, the HVAC business, thanks to my uncle and aunt, since 1983.
Nice. So you got hooked on the science and mechanics of it and just found yourself enjoying it, I guess, after that experience.
I loved it. I like systems. I like systems. And one thing they didn't have, they were still writing everything down on invoices. They had the Rolodex card that you stamp, to make an invoice up. And one of my things I loved was I was able to be, even though there was 3 of the other sons that worked there when I worked there. And my uncle was very, very fair about whoever got to excel. My last name was Moody, just like theirs. But I was able to really run through that company fairly quickly, and had a couple of really good mentors. An Italian guy named Charlie Martino. There was the warehouse guy. That's where you always start. And he set me down from day one and said, I could tell you right now, I can show you and share with you how to be successful in any business, but especially in this business, because he was an old guy like that.
Wow. Mentors are certainly important, aren't they? Honestly, I've had my share of them too. And it's just super important. So tell me, how in particular did you get on the manufacturer's rep side of the business then? So you enjoyed that side of it. So how did you transition over and take an interest in this?
So I'll give you just a quick sidebar story. Went to work for my uncle and aunt, met my wife, moved back to Tampa in 1989. Okay. And I worked for a company called Kane and Boltman. When they hired me, they were in negotiations they couldn't tell me, with Carrier, Bryant and Payne. They were taking over the distributorship in the state of Florida. So they hired me to come in as a sales manager for a small parts house. They had about 8 locations in Florida. And then I worked for Carrier, Bryant and Payne, and started working there. So that got me in contact with the reps that sold components, whether it's heat recovery systems or flexor metal, refrigerants, motors, capacitors. And I was the guy they were calling on to sell the product. Exactly what I do now. I would call on myself if I was still in that position. And I really enjoyed that. And one of the reps noticed the ability that I kind of leant towards technical. I kind of leaned towards technical things. So, and it was heat recovery systems, and something called an aqua coil. You actually put a coil on top of the air handler and use your hot water with a circulating pump and a heat exchanger. Because back then our shears were 9 or 8.
Yeah.
You had a lot of waste heat.
Yeah.
And I really blew that up in the market and sold thousands of them for him. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, he came to me and said, hey, we have a company that's a rep that we'd love to have you join. Would you be able to do that? And for me, it was a big leap because I've always worked. I had always had insurance and a company car and management side. And I went to my wife and said, Marianne, I don't know. I'll know I won't ever forgive myself if I don't do it, but I'm afraid to do it because I've had those securities for so long of, health insurance and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to do it, and it was the best move I ever made. And I've been in the rep business now. Let's see. So I would tell you, I've been in the rep business for 23 years. 24 years.
Wow. And it is a big leap of faith, isn't it? And I went through a similar experience you did, where it's like, all right, you believe in yourself, you're doing a good, you are, you got notoriety for it, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
then
you
got
to question yourself. Am I as good as I think I am?
Exactly. You do.
I have great market, good people, good products, and can I do it? And when it's all on me, because basically you cover all your expenses, you don't have insurance anymore, and all that kind of stuff. I would never. This is the biggest secret in the market. The rep side is a wonderful side of the business. It's getting tougher and tougher. But I remember a couple of guys as I joined into the rep side came to me and kind of pulled me aside and said, this is the best kept secret in the market. This is the best side of things, but that's changed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And honestly, similar experience. I dragged my feet for about 3 or 4 years because I was asked the same thing to come from distribution into the rep. And I was like, you know what? After I got into it, like you did, I'm like, holy cow, this is like a whole new world. And this is the greatest side of the business. It really is. It truly is. So do you find in your experience now dealing with distributors that your experience in that world, does that gain you credibility and a little bit of rapport with the guys, knowing that's where you came
now,
from?
I mean, I'm on not on the backside of my career, but I'm way removed from when I did that stuff. I would tell you, I do at times tell them I work for Carrier and I work for York and I work for Ferguson, and that kind of stuff, and that helps them understand. And I would say I was at one point in your shoes. What I do most of the time is I come up with the answers to the questions they're going to have before they ask them from their position. So being in that position before, I've been using the line forever. We'll talk about it here in a little while about what we're doing on some video conference and stuff. But my line for years has been, give me 10 minutes, and the rest is on you. Yeah. And I've been doing that forever because I know there's certain reps that come in to an office and they're not going to leave until you write them a PO or you give them they're in there for an hour and a half. And
Old
you just
school.
don't have enough. You just don't have it.
Right.
So I always said, give me 10 minutes, and the rest is on you. So I would try to come up with kind of a game plan on not just reactive selling just on price, but here's what we can do for you. Here's our product. Mm-hmm. And here's all the things we do for you outside of the product. And that's how you can bring some value to them. Because if you're just coming in with the price and you're selling a vacuum pump or a PCO unit, that's all you bring. There's 10 other guys that could do that. Right. But if you could come in with all these other things that we can do for you, that's the differentiator between the two of them. That's how you're going to get that business, is by selling that way.
Yeah. So Florida in particular, in your agency, I mean, you guys are in a hotbed of an indoor air quality accessory, market. Honestly, there's a bunch of players in the market. How do you see target sales, your agency? You've been very, very successful at making a nice footprint and foothold in your territory with indoor air quality, accessories. What do you attribute you and your agency's success in doing so well with those IAQ products?
So first, let's be straight honest. We have a really rich market, which you teed it up that way. We're in a great market. People understand IAQ here. For the most part, I don't think we still hit the hem of the garment of what we can do from a whole home solution. We've been very directed towards, I mean, heck, we started out with electronic, electrostatic filters. Yeah, Allergy Gold and DF95s for dust free. I mean, that's where we started, 30 years ago. But what we try to do is we try to make sure that we are in a position to where we can share technology and have people understand the technology. Okay. And our success has been, we're not salesmen, we're trainers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you could become a trainer, you don't have to sell anything because you're just educating people on a process and the products. Okay. So our success in this marketplace has solely been being passionate about what we do, knowing our products, knowing our competitors' products, never talking bad about our competitors' products, just doing an evaluation, right? And having a story to tell them that's consistent. We come up with a base story, and then everybody in our agency makes it their own. I would send David Watt in to do a presentation on PCO products before me. I'm good at it. David Watt's great at it. And because he took what he learned and made it his own, right? It's not a canned thing. You're not reading from a script.
Right.
So that's kind of, for us, we're in a good market, so we capitalized on that. And we also have a rich history. I mean, I started selling this product in 1990. Products Dust Free had available back then.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're lucky and blessed to have opportunities with Clean Comfort and the IQ things there. But more than anything is we haven't necessarily sold on price. And I'd be lying to you when I tell you South Florida is the dumping grounds of the world. And every rep has a place where's the dumping grounds. So our mine is Miami. But we have Brad Carson down there that just does a great job on relationships with some old school, obviously Hispanic, Cuban market.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't speak a bit of Spanish, but he knows his product and he brings value to them. And what we do, if we're going to bring value to you, if you need a better price, then you need to make a bigger commitment. The answer is always yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what kind of commitment you make.
Yes, and
the answer is always yes.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure you give us a commitment that makes sense for both of us.
Sure.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of how
it did. My takeaway from listening to you really is you have a passion to begin with. You make yourself the experts on the product and knowledgeable on the product, and then you basically are educating folks, right? And I think passion is it's what's the word I want to use is spreadable. It's catchy, right? It's contagious. Passion is contagious, yes. Right? So you you said David, made his own story, his own narrative with the knowledge that he had on the product, right? And now he's out there putting his own experience with the product in, I'm sure, and his own story. And people love stories. And that's honestly, you work that into the educational component. So I'm really taking away here some really valid, some really great advice is, be passionate, educate yourself in the product, be the experts at it, be willing to share it and get in front of people. It's all, honestly, Dan, it really.
I think there's one more thing too that's important. And we learned this, I'd probably say the hard way. Me wanting, if I find a company is quality, they have 20 guys in it and they've got a great service team and they're reputable, and I'm trying to push them to be an IAQ because they're perfect and they don't know it, but they're perfect. We have spent hours and hours and hours trying to get that guy. It's like pushing a rope uphill. It's not going to happen, right. And putting toothpaste back into a toothpaste container. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So what I would say, part of the success in the last several years is we go in with the opportunity and we will take it away from them as fast as we offered it to them and have them want them to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
want to come to us.
Yes.
So don't have your package, have your program, and have it and identify, here's what I'm looking for in a contractor. It may meet your requirements, but they may not be able to meet it based on what their mindset is. So what I'm saying is guys who understand indoor quality, who are selling maintenance packages and going back twice a year to do the cleanups and test and checks, those guys are much more favorable when finding a guy that you think is perfect to go out and sell it. And the bottom line is he probably never will, and you're going to spend hours and hours.
That's part of the game, right? It's part of the fun, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So you, so, obviously we're built around relationships, seeing people in person, obviously over the course of time, building rapport. So given this, our current situation with this pandemic going on and us not being able to travel, I mean, fortunately, I think most heating and air conditioning contractors have been deemed essential. So I think most of them are still busy or can run on service calls if needed, which is really fortunate for us. And then honestly, facing this challenge, how are you and your staff coping with not being able to see your customers in person now? So what have you been doing recently?
Okay, well, I appreciate you asking that, because it's been a real challenge for us. I always tell the principals like yourselves, when I talk to them, I have some guys, they're like a tiger in a cage, right now. They want to get out. And there's another wave that's going to come, is everybody and their brother's going to want to do things when this is all over too, and you're going to have to manage that. But get back to your question, what we're doing now is, what we try to do is take an approach on how we would feel if we were on the other side. If I was a contractor, if I was a distributor, and everybody's doing webinars and conference calls and Zoom meetings and this and that. And so obviously the value we can bring to keep things moving is having some kind of conversation. So our team got together and we talked about it a little bit, talked with Lindsay, in the office, and we came up with 10-minute video chats. So instead of saying, I want to do a webinar with you, I want to do a 10-minute video chat. Now they know the credentials of how long it's going to be.
Yep.
And they're taking us up on it. And we also tell them when we get started, my 10 minutes starts right now. And after 10 minutes, if it's on you, if you have more questions, we'll take as much time as you want, but you committed to 10 minutes to me, and that's what I'm going to stay within. And that kind of tied into what I talked about earlier. We just kind of turned that into the virtual side.
Yeah.
The other thing that we're doing is we are acting virtually, going to the territory every day. We just started doing that about a week and a half ago, where whatever territory you would be in, if I was going to be in Kissimmee today and Fort Myers tomorrow, what I do is whatever I was going to talk about or present, I send an email to those customers and put in whatever content. And then I make a phone call and follow up with them and have a discussion with them. So I'm virtually going to them with everything I would have done if I would have been in the field face to face.
Excellent.
I can't show them samples and such.
Yeah. Well, you could hold it up in front of you.
I could. Yeah. On the 10-minute call. Those are actually just emails. Yeah, you're right. But so, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to get lost in a bunch of emails, because that's what everybody's doing right now. So our guys are on a 6-week cycle. Okay. They try to go through their territory every 6 weeks. It doesn't always happen that way, but they kind of put a schedule out there so they kind of know where they are. And if they can't go to Daytona because they had to go to Orlando for something different, they just switch those days around. And that allows us to have a cycle. We're not getting back to them too many times. The same thing with, social media, constant contact. Don't blow them up now. Don't send 4 a day, because you're going to be unsubscribed like that because they're getting too much information.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing we're doing. And the last thing we're doing, and I'm going to tell you, I'm enjoying this one the most, because it's about relationships. And I pick 5 to 8 customers. Most of the time, they're principals at a higher level, VPs, purchasing guys. And I just send them a text. Hey, just thinking about you. Hope you and your family are healthy and safe. Really looking forward to getting back to work and working with you when this is all over with Dan. And I'm telling you what, I'm doing it with contractors. I'm doing it with, and that by far, and some I haven't talked to in a year and a half, you know, some of the people I don't call on since, running the company, I'm kind of more of a bullet going different places, not covering the whole, the whole territory branch by branch. So it's been really kind of nice to reconnect with some of these people.
Personal touch. That's really nice. Really nice. And that's a nice personal touch. Yeah, go ahead.
It's great. The last thing I do is I have some target sales cards, like just regular small cards, and I just write physically a note in there. Hey, hope you guys are well, and can't wait till this is all over with so we can get together, get back to work. And Dan Moody, throw my card in there, throw a stamp on it, write it out, and send it out to them. Little touches like that mean a lot now, and they'll remember that. They'll remember that.
You
So
know, Dan, you bring up a really, really good point. A handwritten note. I did that about a year ago with one of the guy that brought on a line that we were, looking at. I went and saw him later, and he still had that thank you card on his desk.
yes,
Like, isn't
yeah,
it? So, a funny story, real quick. I went and looked at the beginning of all this about 3 weeks ago when I knew we were going to be homebound for a little while. I actually went online and looked for thank you cards, and they were sold out literally everywhere.
wow.
So I'm glad,
And then
this is a time to be
yes,
thankful, to notice people, recognize people. Doing it by text, to be honest with you, I didn't think about that. That's nice, that personal touch. That's
yeah, and it really takes seconds.
right, right.
And if you want to cheat, it can be get tired of doing it every day. You can put the same message to every person if you want.
You're not saying copy and paste now, are you? Don't give all your secrets away. Don't give all your secrets away. That's great. I love
Oh
it.
man,
I love
that's
it.
good stuff.
You have another story. You called me a couple weeks ago, actually 3 or 4 weeks ago now, time's flying. I think you had, when you were out on a call, I think in Miami, you had you
Yes,
called me all excited. I want you to to give us some background on that call and share the excitement that you had on the phone with me that day as to why.
I will do that. It was a blast. So we've had a situation where we're down a person from a sales standpoint. And that person did a really good job for us in Miami on some key accounts. And the old man had to go in and cover some things that we're committed to. So I went down to South Florida. I could say company names and stuff, right? That's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah, you were there. Yep.
Okay. So I went and met with Jim Air in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're part of the Watsco group. We have a good relationship with them corporately, and I put together a training module and it was thrown on me at the last minute because this whole transition of having a void down there I wasn't expecting. So I had a couple of days to put a program together. So I put a program together that I thought would be beneficial. Went down to Miami. By the way, I was down in Miami for 3 weeks, for 3 days that whole time. Loved every second of it because it was all around IAQ stuff. Was able to get, was scheduled. I didn't schedule, it was scheduled before I went down there and went into a Doral store. And if you guys have never been into Miami and been into a high level volume store, it's quite impressive. 7, 8, 9 counter people, counters all over the place, product out there. It's really
impressive,
exciting. If you're in business and you're trying to sell air conditioning components, that's what you want. And very little English spoke, but that's okay. I had to talk slowly, which nobody believes I can do, but I did it. So we went and organized 2 meetings. They're about an hour and 10 minutes each. And it's on the active, and the carbon, just the 2 products. And had samples. I had the video that you guys made up. I had, I started just talking to these guys. Just had meetings basically. What do you know about active and passive? What do you sell most of? What's everybody talking about? Then they always say RGF, whatever. I say, well, we'd like to have something different to talk about, and then I tell them the story about we used to give these units out, just give them out for free, and 9 out of 10 of them would never be installed. And, they'd say, well, let's start that program again. I said, well, we'll come up with a program, but it's not going to be that one because that one didn't work. Yeah. So long story short, went through the training process with them, went over the products, not just features and benefits, but talked about, things that make sense, like a bug zapper phrase on what we do in some of our technologies, made them understand that. They were very much engaged. And I think part of it is because, they had to listen closely because their English is okay. But they were very, very much engaged, asked a lot of good questions. So I went through both those classes and really felt good about it, had them laughing, and we watched the videos, always hand them everything I told them, I handed them. One of the things, my pet peeve is if you're going to make a presentation to somebody and you're good at it, you better give them something to remember you by, because they're going to say, oh, remember that bald-headed guy that did that presentation 2 weeks ago? They're not going to remember my name. But if they have a piece of paper, they're going to know what my name was, what I talked about, and what the program was. So here's where it gets cool. I go down to see Alfredo, the manager, at the end of the day, after 3 hours. Picked up all my stuff and literature. And as I'm walking down the stairs, because we have the meeting rooms upstairs, there's all 7 or 8 counter guys and girls walking in with a unit under both arms, an active, and a carbon. Yeah. Some of them had 2, and they put them on the desk, on the countertops. Okay. Within a week, all their inventory was gone. They had sold virtually nothing before. I think they had 36 pieces or something like that. They reordered, and that's 2 weeks before this mess started. So now everybody's going crazy. But what was really cool about it was you see they got it. It wasn't that my message was just information that is provided by you and by Dust Free, right?
Yeah.
It's here. It's good information. And what I did is I just made it very applicable to them, and I spoke to them in basic terms, not because they're not smart, that's not it, but now they can simply say, this is the difference between our product and somebody else's, without saying, oh, that's a piece of junk.
Yep.
Right?
You never had to say that. You never had to berate another product. You never had to even say the other product's name, really, right? You just put things in perspective through your knowledge and education of what the technologies are, what they're capable. And you did it enthusiastically. You told your story. Guess what? It was contagious.
And
apparently it was.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I do a lot is say, take the competitor's product and put it next to mine, and take it apart, and you tell me which one you want in your house. That's all. I'm not knocking those products. I also say sometimes some of these other guys, the reason why we're in this market is because of them.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't start this. As far as PCO stuff, we surely didn't start it. I brought that technology to Dust Free many years ago. So we're on the backs of some other people. And, we just went to school and put a better mousetrap together. That's really what happened.
Yeah.
So, but that's fun.
That's a great story.
That. We also did a program where now's not the time to try to do this, where if they sold 5 units, it didn't matter which one, mix or match, active, or carbon, they would get a unit for their home.
Yeah.
So
the normal times, without having a rush and
can't do that now. Can't do that now. But anyway, so that's
awesome.
kind of how that went. It was just a lot of fun and really, really fun story. I hope I'd like to have dozens more of those. I would be doing it right now if I didn't have to sit in this house because of all this COVID-19 stuff.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, crazy time. Well, I appreciate you sharing your passion. I appreciate all that you do in Florida. I mean, all of us do, and sharing your war stories. So you're in Tampa, right? Is that?
Yes, sir.
So where do you, if you get a question for you here, if you get company that comes in from out of town, do you have a spot that you like to go to, or a favorite? Like, what do you normally, where do you like to go?
Yes, I do. So, Ybor City is one of the oldest cities in Florida. And it's really cool. I think second to St. Augustine. And it kind of has the New Orleans feel, walking down the streets and the balconies, and but really eclectic, different kind of foods. I like taking them to places where they can have, a real Spanish meal, as places there to do that.
Sure.
There's a real Italian place. So it's almost like a little slice of how it used to be, back when everybody migrated here. You had the Italians, and you had the, Irish, English. Everybody kind of just went in their own sections, much more in the Northeast. But here, Ybor City is the place, because you can, if you like to have a cigar, you can do that. If you want to have a real healthy meal, there's places to do that. If you want to, have any kind of accessories as far as microbrewing companies that, there a lot of them have spun out from here in Ybor City. So Ybor City is the place. And in fact, you and I, at some point when we get through all this stuff, I'd love to take you there.
Sounds like a great plan, Dan. Yeah.
You got to get out before 11 because it gets a little shady after 11.
Okay, good point. Note to self. I will remember that. Yeah,
that kind of stuff. We'll be home.
I love historic towns like that, or like you said, that historic feel. It's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your secret with us too. I appreciate that. So, Dan, stay healthy. Good luck to you and your family. Hope everybody does well throughout this. Again, appreciate your time and spending your war stories, sharing your war stories with us. So good luck, my friend, and we'll talk soon.
Hey, thank you very much. My pleasure.